Everyone, in this video I am going to show you how to create a highly engaging YouTube thumbnail in this MrBeast using some simple but powerful techniques in Adobe Photoshop. So let's jump right in. First thing first, I opened Photoshop and created a new canvas at 1920 by 1080 pixels. This is the standard YouTube thumbnail size, so make sure you are using these exact dimensions. Next, I dragged in the sports stadium background. I carefully positioned it to make sure the framing felt balanced and the focal point was strong. This background is going to set the entire mood of the thumbnail, so take your time here. After that, I imported the sports car PNG, which I created using Gemini Pro 3. Since it already had a transparent background, it was perfect for compositing. I scaled it up slightly and positioned it where it felt powerful and eye-catching. Then I brought in the driver PNG, which was also cleaned up using Gemini Pro 3. I placed him inside the car, but at this stage, he still looked like he was floating on the top. So here is an important technique. I lowered the opacity of the driver layer to around 50% so I could see the car underneath. Then I selected the lasso tool and carefully made a selection of the lower part of the body, the area that should be hidden inside the car. Once the selection was ready, I picked the eraser tool and removed that hidden portion. After that, I brought the opacity back to 100%. Now the driver actually looks like he is sitting inside the car, not pasted on top of it. At this point, I compared my work with a MrBeast reference thumbnail, and that's when I realized something was missing. So I imported the cheetah PNG and positioned it in a way that balanced the overall composition. I adjusted the scale and placement until everything felt dynamic and visually exciting. Now that all the assets were in place, it was time to polish the thumbnail. I started by adding a subtle shadow near the neck of the character. This helps sell realistic lighting and makes the subject feel grounded in the scene. I used a soft brush with low flow and built the shadow gradually. I also applied some dodge and burn to the face using curves, just to add more depth and dimension. I won't go deep into the facial retouching here, that's a separate topic, but even light adjustments make a big difference. Next, I added a soft shadow over the right shoulder to create separation from the background. This adds depth and gives the cinematic look we see in the MrBeast thumbnails. Now let's move on to color grading the car, which is very important step. I added a color balance adjustment layer, clipped it to the car and increased warm tones, especially reds and yellows, across shadows, mid-tone and highlights. This gives the car that warm cinematic feel. To slightly mute the colors, I added a vibrance layer, reduced both vibrance and saturation and clipped it to the car as well. This helps match the more controlled professional look. After that, I added an exposure layer and brought the brightness down slightly to make the car feel heavier and more grounded. Then I used a curve adjustment layer, inverted the mask and painted only on the shadow areas of the car. This adds depth and makes the lighting feel more realistic. Even after all that, I noticed some areas were still too bright. So I added another curves layer and fine-tuned the lighting by painting selectively, constantly comparing it with the MrBeast's reference thumbnail. Next, I created a subtle vignette on the background. This gently darkens the edges and pulls the viewer's focus towards the center of the thumbnail. Then I noticed the car seat area was too dark and losing detail. So I added another exposure layer, inverted the mask and painted only on the areas to bring back details. That seat also had a yellow tint, so I corrected it using a color balance layer, pushing the tone slightly towards blue. Again, this adjustment was clipped and applied only where needed. To add depth between the cheetah and the car, I painted a soft shadow beneath the cheetah. I placed it on a layer below, set the blend mode to multiply and lower the opacity. This small detail makes a huge difference. Next, I focused on the face color. Compared to the reference, it was too yellow. So I added a color balance layer, pushed the tones towards red and magenta, clipped it to the subject, inverted the mask and painted only on the face. Now the subject had that warm, punchy look that grabs attention instantly. Finally, it was the time to bring everything together. I created a stamped layer using a Shift, Ctrl, Alt and E, renamed it and converted it into a smart object. Then I opened Camera Raw filter. Inside Camera Raw, I slightly cooled the temperature, increased exposure, added contrast, adjusted vibrance and fine-tuned highlights, shadows and clarity. These final tweaks gave the thumbnail that clean, professional finish. And that's it. We have successfully created a high-impact YouTube thumbnail in the style of MrBeast using Photoshop. If you find this tutorial helpful, make sure to like and subscribe for more Photoshop tutorials. Thanks for watching and I will see you in the next one.